Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 28 of the Lebanese Biodiversity podcast. My name is Mira, and I am an entomologist. My guest today is Samer Halawany, a photographer with a passion for wildlife underwater and above the ground. He is a certified scuba diver and a member of ABCL, the Association for Bird Conservation in Lebanon. He is a member of the CMAS Visual Committee, and he just won second place in the UAE underwater photo contest organized by the Emirates Diving Association in the category of marine behavior. His entry was a photo of dolphins. You can check this out on the social media posts for this episode. So, as you might have guessed, we will be mainly speaking about wildlife photography in this episode. How do you get started? What got Samer into this in the first place, and how photography can be used for wildlife monitoring and conservation projects. I hope you enjoy this episode and see you on the next one. Good evening, Samer. How are you today?
Good evening, Mira. I hope you're doing fine. I'm fine, thank you so much.
I'm fine, thank you. So, how about we start this off by you telling us a bit about yourself and your background?
Okay, my name is Samer Halawany. I am a graduate of marketing from Lebanese American University and a big passionate for the wildlife and underwater and photography especially. I started photography in Beirut as a passionate in 2008, and I started taking courses here and there in Lebanon. And at the same time, I had this big passion since my young age for nature and the marine life, especially that I grew up in the mountainside where there is a house with a garden. So you tend to have this exposure to birds, wildlife, and nature in general. And during summertime, I used to spend my summer free diving with my brother near the seaside, which gave me some exposure to the marine life and as well the underwater world. In
Okay.
2010, I started taking photography courses, and in 2015, I decided to master photography. So I traveled to New York, where I studied at New York Film Academy, got certified there as a professional photographer. And since I came back, I opened my photography center, which is based in Beirut, Ashrafiyeh, where we teach visual art and photography. I joined the ABCL, the Association for Bird Conservation, where we work on scientific studies related to ornithology and birds, and as well photography, wildlife photography, and bird photography add a lot of value to this domain. On another note, since I've been scuba diving since 2006, I joined these two hobbies, which are photography and scuba diving, by mastering the underwater photography specialty. I'm a member of Lebanon Water Festival here in Lebanon and a member of the visual committee of the Confédération Mondiale des Activités Subaquatiques, CMAS. I represent Lebanon in all the underwater photography competitions that happens in the Arab world and the region. And that's a little bit about myself.
Did your interest in everything wildlife, like be it terrestrial or underwater, start at the same time? So you just mentioned that as a child you were always interested in wildlife in general.
Mhm.
But did you start becoming curious of everything at the same time? Like, or did you,
No, no,
I
it
don't
was
know.
it was on several stage of my life. So since my young age, we lived in a house with a garden, and I had this passion to birds and as well everything related to farming. So we had chicken in the garden, we had ducks, and this
Okay.
approached me a little bit to the bird life. Okay,
Okay, so
so
it
that was
started.
at my young age. Yeah.
Okay.
And then it started growing more and more since my parents used to bring me books about wildlife, animals, birds, and these stuff. And this increased the passion which was inside me as a child as well. As well, all my toys were animals, so it was farms or things related to African animals. You know, these toys we play with when we are young.
Yes.
And at the second stage, everything related to the beach started at my teenage, as my brother used to take me to do some free diving with him. So I used to free dive with him and had my eye on the fish, the underwater world, the marine life. So that was, if you want, a key for me to get attached to the deep.
And at what point did you pick up a camera and say, okay, I would like to start documenting what I see?
Okay. Apart from wildlife, I'm a collector of vintage cameras. So that's what somehow brought me to the camera world. So I have today a
Okay.
collection of 750 vintage cameras. Okay. So I started as analog, doing film. And once I received a digital camera, I felt that it was dragging me more and more to approach the wild and the underwater. So it was a very peaceful tool to get close to animals, get into their behavior, into their real world, checking the details of every species. The approach got me to a different direction where we can observe, we can do research, we can know, add knowledge to our wildlife.
So Samer will be telling us more about how he got into photography, and this is a relatively common story that we hear for people who are interested in birds, because in Lebanon, a lot of people who used to shoot birds or who used to be hunters started getting interested in the topic and then switched their rifle for a camera.
So basically, it was the camera was this tool that came and switch as a switch for me from a hunter as well, because I used to hunt since our culture here in Lebanon is very oriented to hunting. So my father taught me to use the gun and join him for hunting during the hunting season.
Yes.
The camera came at a time to prove to me that there is a peaceful way to approach as well the wild, where you can really record an image instead of killing the species. You can keep the species alive and give it more value through the beautiful shots you take and the beautiful moment you tend to click. So the fact where my camera replaced the gun, I think it brought a message where each person should reconsider the tool he's using to approach the wild.
Okay, so this is very interesting because you already have, or you already had when you started going into photography, beginning of a knowledge on wildlife and an interest in wildlife, even if it's through hunting. Like a lot of hunters end up becoming photographers because as a hunter, you are
True.
already aware of the ecology of the species, which season it passes, when you shouldn't shoot because now
100%.
it's nesting season. Yeah, so it is a natural progression, and I'm glad that it went in that direction and not the other. And
The other way around, yeah.
yes. It's always very interesting to know how people got into wildlife. And you mentioned that you were involved with ABCL. Would you like to talk more about your involvement in the different environmental NGOs and
Sure, sure,
how
sure.
this is part of your, of your life?
So I approached ABCL in 2018 as I usually do lots of photography, and at that time I was posting on Facebook and approaching people through different directions from street photography. And I got in touch with Mr. Fuad Aitani, who's today the president of our association. And since we share the same hobby, we had this beautiful click together where we go and do birding and bird photography together. Now, joining ABCL added lots of value, knowledge, and awareness as well to my passion. So I got into the world where it's not only taking a picture of a bird, it's taking a picture of a species, knowing about it, about its habitat, its behavior, its status in the wild. So I really added lots of value on several levels. And today I am the head of the communication in ABCL, where I take care of the social media connections, awareness in schools as well, and the municipalities. So this message of photography and bird photography and wildlife photography came in a very beneficial way toward the community around us, where I tend to spread the word, whether it's through an image, whether it's through an awareness session, a knowledge session to schools, universities, and I'm happy that it took this direction. So that's how ABCL came to my life. On another note, in what's related to the underwater, I'm very thankful to a gentleman that has always part of my heart now. Peace on his soul, Mr. Simon Khouri, who was the head of Lebanon Water Festival and the president of the CMAS at the time. He was the one who developed in me the underwater photography direction. Since I was an
Okay.
underwater photographer, I started competing in Lebanon Water Festival as an underwater photographer, participating in several championships related to underwater photography organized here. Then I participated in the Jordanian underwater photography championship in 2020, where I did a third place. Then I did another third place in the Arabian underwater photography competition, and I joined the CMAS Visual Committee, where we always try to find rules and regulations and develop this beautiful passion. And
So,
last year, I did the second place in the Arabian underwater photography competition. And hopefully this year, in September, I'll be participating in the Monte Carlo underwater photography competition in Monaco to represent Lebanon in an international championship happening there, organized by Musée Cousteau.
well, congratulations on last year's competition and good luck for this year's competition. What I take away from what you just told me is that integrating NGOs has allowed you to find community in the sense that you were able to find like-minded people that share the same passion, that were able either to
100%.
mentor you, but it's great, but you were also able to bring on the table your expertise, and because ultimately you cannot communicate very efficiently if you do not have beautiful pictures or videos to show people or to convey the message to people.
It's true. It's very true. Honestly, it's life changing to see that you're connecting to people, like-minded people, through your beautiful passion, and as well spreading positive word in this environment where unfortunately lots of negativity and harming activities are coming up, like illegal hunting, like environment destruction. So we really need people that invest their time, their skills, their knowledge to build positive effect on the environment.
Yes, I agree. One way of doing it is the way that you are contributing to all of this is wildlife photography. And I have a lot of questions. So I'm
Go
gonna
ahead.
try I'm gonna try to not be too chaotic with the order of the
Don't
questions.
hesitate. I am always happy to answer.
Okay, so let's start with terrestrial ecosystems. So photography above the ground.
Yeah.
Where can people begin? So people are interested in
Okay.
photography. What
Sure,
can
sure,
you
sure,
do?
sure.
Yeah.
Let me explain this to you since we have a course in our visual arts center. It's called Wildlife Photography course, where people can join to develop this passion. But I always recommend to start with basic photography to really understand the camera as a tool, and as well directed to your passion as a wildlife enthusiast. So usually I never push people to go to photography. Usually what we recommend is even with your phone to start taking pictures and images to the species or wildlife that is around your house, in the garden, whatever your eye is ready to fall on,
Yes.
related to this passion. Just take a click for you to start having the knowledge about what you're photographing or what you're shooting. Because this hobby, once you start developing it, you need to understand the approach towards the species you're trying to capture. So each bird, each animal, even each fish has a specific approach. Sometimes you need a hide where you will hide and wait, like what we did this year in Hungary with the white-tailed eagle. Okay, so
Yes.
where we had to wait for several hours for the eagles to come and start photographing them on a water spot. Okay, or the kingfisher where we wait for him and we know that this is his territory, his stand. Okay. On another note, you can go for the field direction where you carry your camera, go to a wetland like Ammi, start walking and doing, or a park, for example, and do several encounters inside by slowly approaching the species you see. So each species, each animal has a direction, but it's not at all something hard to start with. You can start with a point and shoot camera with a bridge camera, and then develop it to the professional direction by taking photography courses and adding value to your knowledge and to your photography skills.
So you answered here with two different aspects of preparing
Sure.
your photography trip, which is the first one would be, well, what kind of camera you'd have, and you could start with your cell phone
100%.
camera. And the second part is how you approach the species. So this requires you to start learning more about the wildlife that you're trying to photograph. And
100%. I mean, they go together.
yes. Well, I mean, it's not very intuitive. I don't know how to explain this, but I think that when you start taking pictures around you, things are more one-dimensional, and then you slowly realize the things that you did not see before intentionally looking for them.
So
And
you know what? It's gradual. So for example, if
yes,
you take a picture with a phone, usually it's wide. Even if you zoom in, you don't have this perfect lens to get close. But if you take a picture with a phone, okay, and toward a species, and you get this feeling that you want to know more about the species, you want a better resolution. Okay, you want a beautiful moment. You want to see the details of the face, of the bill, of the feather. Now you will start developing your photography thoughts to get the perfect kit. That would be a telelens to get close to these animals, to these birds. Okay, a camera that has a good sensor, so it can give you good details as well, and as well develop your thoughts towards the approach that you will take the next time you encounter the species.
yes, yeah. So the desire to learn more about the species will push you to look for something that
100%.
yeah, so for
100%.
more performant gear. And now, like, if we jump underwater for a moment, because when I see it from afar, it sounds extremely complicated. What do you need to get started underwater? Is it more complicated than normal photography, or is it easily accessible as a technique? Well, first, I suppose you would need to start by diving, at least.
Oh yeah, underwater photography has, honestly, to be honest, is it's not like it's more complicated. It's just it needs more courses and more. So from one side, you need to get into the underwater world where you have to be a minimum an advanced diver or two-star diver according to CMAS, or advanced diver according to PADI, where you are in full control of your
Okay.
diving skill, your buoyancy, not to destroy marine life around you when you take photos. So you have to have a good trim, a good positioning underwater, as well to understand the marine life around you. Okay, because underwater you have the corals, you have the fish around you. You really need to take care whenever you're taking photos of any species underwater. This is on in what's related to scuba diving. So you need to be a scuba diver, okay, and get a specific degree and level in scuba diving to start doing the real underwater photography. You can be a free
Okay.
diver and take a camera, but you will never have enough time to take really good shots. So being an underwater photographer requires the skills of a scuba diver. So studying scuba diving from one side, getting to an association related to scuba diving, and having uh, at least an advanced level where you are in control and relaxed underwater with your gear. And
Yes.
on another level, you have to be passionate for photography. Now, the photography gear we use underwater is different. First, we need a case for the camera. We need as well two strobes or light, because underwater we lack the light. So we need strobes, which are flashes that we use to bring back the colors that are underwater. So I
Okay.
use, for example, a camera, a case. I use two strobes, okay, in
Okay.
order for me to be able and have enough light to get the colors of the turtle I'm shooting, the red octopus I'm shooting, the corals I'm taking shots of. So all that will assist in giving my photos value. As well, of course, in additional to all this, you need the kit for the scuba diving. So you need fins, mask, computer, weight belt, and a diving suit. So it's somehow, yes, more requiring, okay,
Yeah.
and more, if you want, budget oriented, because the underwater photography gear, when it gets to be very professional, it has some budget requirement.
Well, I suppose most people get into it because they already dive.
In the CMAS, we have a course called Underwater Photography, organized by CMAS, where we tend, for example, I teach underwater photography as a CMAS instructor for underwater photography. Okay, and here people will come to you whenever they are already scuba diver. In case someone want to enter the underwater photography world, they need to be a scuba diver first. So this is a
Okay.
requirement. While in wildlife, you don't have this real requirement where you really need to be a wildlife with a special level of wildlife enthusiasm.
Okay, yes, I see. You can prepare for the terrestrial ecosystem much easier than you would need to prepare for the underwater because
100%,
we do not
100%.
live underwater and ultimately you so being a free diver being a scuba diver is a prerequisite, and then after that, well, thank you, you already answered some of the question on like on what actual equipment you would need. And here I'm like jumping to a question that's a bit broad, but bear with me. So when you start getting
Take your time.
interested when you start getting interested in wildlife photography, a lot of people are interested in the artistic value of the pictures that they are taking.
True,
Sometimes it can be
true.
gratifying to follow up on a species and shoot behaviors, for example. But my question is always, as a person who works a lot in species monitoring,
Yeah.
how can you use these pictures for species monitoring? And what is the like what are the requirements for a picture so that you can actually use it to recognize a species and for it to be like you know for it to be a valid data point? I don't know if
Okay.
this
So
is
this is
clear. Yeah.
something I learned from ABCL, to be honest. Uh, you have two type usually of image. You have the artistic images, where you use your lens and equipment to get beauty shots, what we call beauty shots. Okay, now
Yes.
beauty shots may add a lot to your wildlife photography as an artist, but they may not always be supportive for research in terms of doing studies for species we are looking for. So that's why I believe there is two direction. You have a direction where you use your photography and wildlife photography in a way to do research. For example, if we when we did studies for the Syrian Saran, and was myself, Fuad, and ABCL few years back, we brought what is called a bridge camera, which is a camera that can give you good reach, but not the best camera in terms of resolution. Okay,
Okay.
and that was because we really wanted to monitor from one side the behavior, and we took several shots to the wings. We wanted to
Yes.
really get close because it has a very good zoom, but it doesn't have the perfect resolution. So we wanted to we wanted to have a look at the feather, we wanted to have a look at the beak, we wanted to have a look at the behavior, specific behavior. So here we were doing what we call record shots. Doing record shots will always help you to monitor and do research, and as well enter the details you need for your studies. While artistic shots are usually taken to be put in art fairs, to be put in books where you have this beautiful background, where you have this species, for example, of this bird standing near flowers or mating or all this stuff, but in a very, very colorful and artistic scenario.
Yes.
Record shots, we don't care much about the background. We really use them for identification, for research, for details, for knowledge.
So this is interesting because you will need both in a conservation context because you need to get
100%.
the public enthusiastic about the species, and so you would need beautiful artistic shots for that. And then you need to actually have the data, and as you say, sometimes maybe measure the wingspan, see the variability of the color, or maybe find new sites where they nest, etc. And for that, you would need cameras with more reach, but that would
100%. For example,
necessarily make, yeah.
sometimes I go and do artistic shots, and I have Fuad asking me, Samer, did you take the bird from behind? I mean, from an artistic point of view, no one wants to see the tail of the bird or to look at it from behind. But us as a researcher, we, for example, are looking for a specific feather color found in
Yes.
the wing. So that would be doing record shots.
Yes, yes, I understand. Even if the shots are not very glamorous, sometimes you need more
Yeah,
details to determine the sex
100%.
or the species. So now I am jumping on to a question to which you already partially answered, which is how can wildlife photography contribute to species monitoring? But maybe you can expand a bit more on that.
Okay, I will elaborate more towards the subject. Um, it's a tool today to that can get us extra observation, whether it's related to external behavior or as well the internal anatomy, whether it's studying the feature, whether we need to have specific identification to subspecies, knowing more about uh, if you want dedicated or entitled uh, kind of behavior expectation or as well kind of details related to uh, how this species is acting in in its environment and habitat. So the camera and the equipment, whether it's a lens we're using or an approach we're trying to adopt, will allow us to add value and to add knowledge and as well to add data to our research in what's related to close-ups, details, moments, story building, and of course scientific information.
Okay, so let's suppose that you are starting a citizen science project and that you have a person joining you or several people joining you, right? And that they want to participate in bird monitoring. Where
Okay.
do they start? We can take an example of a specific species if you prefer. I don't know, for
Okay,
example,
for the Syrian
storks or
Saran,
other
which is,
species. Yeah,
if you want, the Syrian Saran is a bird native to our
okay,
area, okay,
okay.
which is he's present. It's present today is mainly our country, Jordan, Syria, okay, and we had a project on this species because the numbers were declining, and we had the research to make as ABCL. It was funded from an association, okay, and we had to monitor this bird, so we had to do several type of studies. Okay, one of the studies, we have to pick areas where the bird is present, record its sound, okay, take picture of this specimen, okay, and monitor if it's really breeding there or not, if there is breeding behavior or not. So for us, we needed qualified people to work on this project. So if you are scientifically not ready to do assessment or research, photography will not be helpful because in scientific studies or in if you want ornithology or emantology, you need someone who is already into the scientific field or that have already the knowledge related to the project. I cannot pick any person and give him a camera and tell him, come, let's go study the Syrian ceram behavior.
What you're telling me is basically the person already needs to know how to recognize the species, how to
100%.
recognize the song, and also where to look for it, especially if you send people on the field where you cannot be with them, where the point is, for example, to have several people
Of
deployed
course.
over Lebanon. Yeah.
Of
Okay.
course.
And so the first step is getting to know more about the species, and then you can become more efficient at monitoring projects or contribute more
100%.
significantly to monitoring projects. Before we move on to the next section, I had a question, which is a lot of people who work in wildlife photography or in wildlife in general also go abroad. So this is your case. You go abroad for either participating in competitions, as you said earlier, but also to photograph wildlife abroad. So
100%.
what perspective did this give you? So if I rephrase my question, how does this expand your knowledge on biogeography and also your knowledge on the species that you see in Lebanon that you may encounter or that you may not encounter elsewhere?
Okay. So to be honest, we worked on, and I will هيك give you a general idea first. For example, we worked on two books so far as ABCL. We did the 404 bird of Lebanon, which we are gonna soon launch the new version because the recorded species has increased in Lebanon.
Okay.
And we did the birds of the wetlands.
Okay.
Okay. And a big part of our trip was to really be able to get close-ups to a big part of the species because unfortunately, Lebanon, in terms of size as a country, in terms of threat towards the birds, in terms of environment, it's very diversified. We are the second corridor for the migratory birds, okay, worldwide. But unfortunately, all the birds are threatened, whether it's from hunters, poachers. So you cannot really approach all the species you tend to encounter. So our trips serve us to do, if you want, extra identification, get photos where we can include in our books, show these species in terms of their feathers, their details, talk about them, their behavior. Uh, so it highlights, if you want, the awareness, the information, the identification, and adds lots of values to our knowledge.
Okay, so from what you are telling us, when you go abroad, you can encounter species that you see in Lebanon that have a wider distribution, say in
They
the
are much
Levant or in
more
the Middle
approachable.
East.
Species tend to be much more approachable, especially like in countries like Hungary, Spain, where you have the right hides
Yes,
and the right preparations done by the Ministry of the Environment, okay, and by several NGOs, where you go and book your hide, and you can take close-up shots to these species. You can approach
yes.
them differently. Here in Lebanon, unfortunately, يعني it's not well prepared. We don't have the means for us to approach birds as needed because you need hides, you need a peaceful environment where the birds can come, rest, feed, a
Yeah.
peaceful place for them and for us to record their behavior.
So in many cases, going abroad helps you know more about the species that we have locally,
Of
but
course,
it also gives you more knowledge and context on their behavior.
100%.
Yeah, and on things that you cannot necessarily observe quietly or observe at all in Lebanon, because there are.
Unfortunately, I mean, here sometimes you take a camera, you go, for example, to Bekaa to record the semi-desert species, and suddenly you have 5 or 6 hunters around you. Which species are you gonna record? You know,
Yeah, yeah, it definitely is more challenging.
it's sad, and it happened a lot with us. I mean, we're carrying our cameras, going for birding, and suddenly you encounter many hunters coming around.
I suppose this is one of the biggest challenges of working in Lebanon. But what are other challenges that come to your mind? You know, having maybe discussed this with ornithologists abroad. What do you think other unique challenges
I mean,
you have in
no,
Lebanon?
I'll tell you, it's not only about illegal hunting, it's even the habitat destruction. I mean, in Spain, for example, we did 10 days of birding in several habitat, okay? So we
Okay.
were in the mountainsides and we moved to the plateau of Toledo, for example. where we record, where we worked on documenting the buzzards. We work on documenting several water bird species. Uh, so wherever we go, you have a reserve, and this reserve has rangers that takes you inside. It's a huge piece of land. Lebanon, unfortunately, you don't have protected land to build observations or to do research or even to enjoy the artistic side of bird photography, you know? So
Yes.
mainly our trips, they serve us a lot on research level. They serve us as well on the artistic level because lots of artists, they go for bird photography as hobbyists. Not everyone need to know all the bird species, or not everyone need to have the bulk of scientific background. Okay, and usually this is becoming a big chunk of tourism. It's encouraging tourism a lot because the hobby of bird photography in Europe and the States is drastically increasing.
Yes, and it's also drawing people or pushing people to go outside. But maybe you could tell us how this photography that is becoming more and more popular now, how can it help resolve the situation in Lebanon? So you use it for science communication, as we were saying earlier. Do you feel that having more awareness sessions, having more material to show to the public now, is having a positive impact on the younger generation? And do you think that this will help partially resolve the situation in Lebanon, at least, like by raising
Of
more
course,
awareness?
Anna, from my point of view, we need to work on the coming up generation because it's very hard to change the old mentality,
Yeah.
which we all were raised on. So, creating awareness sessions in schools, universities, municipalities, all these places will add lots of value and will be a mind changer for the coming generation. From one side, it will highlight for them the beauty of Mother Nature, whether it's mammals, birds, insects, marine life. From the other side, it will highlight the benefits of these species to Earth and to our life cycle. On another note as well, it will show them how much these species are important for our economical side and for our country in terms of tourism. You can do a lot, especially with a country like Lebanon, a lot of touristic stuff related to bird watching, bird photography, if you conserve the birds. And on the same level, if you try to conserve all the ecosystem we have, okay, and lots of use is today oriented to photography. I mean, we see a lot of people going to get any camera today to take photos. Many of them are nature lover. I am organizing on Thursday a talk in Uzak University regarding marine life, underwater photography, and prevention of plastic waste, to talk about and highlight how important is the biodiversity we have in our marine ecosystem, how damaging and harming the plastic we throw in our sea is, and as well how beautiful and informative and fun could the underwater photography be. So that is how important it tend to get to our coming generation.
And for the people who are already convinced of the importance of protecting wildlife, what advice would you give them on how they can get involved in in nature conservation in general, or wildlife conservation?
For people that are already interested, I mean, I encourage them to try and board wildlife photography and underwater photography because it's no longer just an interest. It will turn into a hobby. It will turn into an addict. You know, it's for me, it's an addiction. I mean, when you carry your camera, you go, you dive, you don't want to get out of the water. I mean, if we
Yeah.
don't have a specific amount of air to breathe, you know, I would spend maybe 2-3 hours underwater. Today, I did a 52-minute dive. If I wasn't cold because the sea was still cold and my air was not low in my tank, I would maybe spend 2-3 hours with the turtles. I sent you some photos that you saw, So
Yes.
it's challenging from one side, it's joyful from the other side, it's artistic as well, and it's very informative, adding value to something they are passionate about.
Okay, well, it is very gratifying in all cases, and thank you for this advice. And now to wrap up
It's a pleasure.
this interview, I wanted to ask you if you would like to announce some future activities or exhibitions that you had going on, and if you would like to say any other closing ideas.
Sure. So, first of all, allow me to thank you for the beautiful interview. And of course, we will have, this Thursday, 24 April, we're organizing on Earth Day an underwater photography exhibition at USAC University with a projection for underwater videos that I took as well, and a talk about marine life. It will happen in USAC universities, so in case anyone is interested to join.
Since the time of recording this episode in April, the April event that Samer just mentioned is already behind us. Did any of you attend? I'm interested to know in the comments if so. And if you are interested in seeing a future exhibition of Samer's, you can check out his Instagram and Facebook pages where he'll be announcing the next dates once he has them. We will link both his social media pages in the caption.
We will be having hopefully by end this year as well another exhibition, but I didn't announce the location yet. I will be announcing that on my Instagram uh, during beginning summer. And we have two championships coming up. One is in Jordan. It's the Underwater Photography Cup organized by CIMAS. It will happen in Aqaba, Red Sea of Jordan, for
Yeah.
6 days with European countries participating and countries from the Arab world as well. And the other one would be, as stated previously, happening in Monte Carlo in Monaco, organized by Musée Cousteau. Other stuff, I'm gonna be opening several wildlife photography course starting next month, springtime, of course, and summer. So anyone that would like to join can as well contact me and get more information about the wildlife photography course that we're gonna launch.
Okay. How can people contact you via email or your socials? I can link that in the caption.
Okay, so it's gonna be through Instagram, Samer Halawany Photography. They can send us a message.
Okay.
Okay, or by email, samerframed@gmail.com. I can send you the links.
Yes. Thank you very much, and thank you very much for your time. This was great, and thank you for
Thank
sharing
you.
your passion for wildlife.
Thank you so much, Mira, and hoping that we can always connect to create awareness and have such talks.
Definitely.